Hi, everybody. So I am really excited to work in this journal, and it is new. And the reason that I'm excited is that this is Stonehenge paper. It's a little bit pricey, but this is probably my favorite drawing paper. I've used it for a very long time. It is a little bit unsuited to very wet watercolor work, but other than that, Stonehenge is really, really great for everything that you can throw at it. So I like to start a journal page where I use any kind of gel press or jelly plate by protecting my journal from itself a little bit. Gel plates can be very messy and chaotic, so I'm just binder clipping a little bit of wax paper onto surfaces where I don't want my paint or ink to get. And the first thing I'm doing just to break in this page is using a little bit of P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink on my miniature gel press square, and I'm printing this just tiled across my sheet. I'm just trying to make a little bit of a texture. It's not a print where I have a specific concrete image, so I can repeat my print over and over to fill the space. You'll notice that the ink behaves really nicely on the plate. I'm just using a brush, a little bit of scouring, some water, and what happens is I really get every little stick of texture that is placed on that plate to transfer onto the page. Once I've inked and printed, I'm using a little bit of a watercolor wash just to pull things together and just to fill in some of the space and atmosphere between the spaces in this texture. So this color is Brown Madder by Winsor Newton, and it is one of my absolute favorite colors of watercolor. I'm really just interested in those earthy reds lately. I'm using my washi tape here as a mask rather than as decoration in its own right, although I think that would be kind of cool, kind of cute. But right now I'm just masking off the center area of my page. Outside of that area, I'm going to do some writing, and I'm really challenging myself to use writing more and more readily than I have habitually. So what I'm writing about is I'm just listing and naming various things that are external to me, putting pressure on me, and outside my control. It's nothing huge and deep and dark. I'm just listing and naming some of those things. Now I'm going to use a little bit of acrylic to alter that texture a bit and push that writing back a bit further. I like to use Blick matte acrylic in white for this purpose. It's just the right amount of sheer, just the right amount of opaque, and it remains nice and toothy, so I can keep drawing, painting, and writing on top of it easily. So it holds the imprint of on the plate really well. I'm not doing anything really complicated to my plate, just painting it on literally and depositing it onto my page. I get a nice residual amount of those brush strokes and that texture. And so that's really how I'm using the jelly plate in this case. So all of those external pressures are sort of embedded onto my page. And I like to add a little bit of complementary color. So if that red has a sort of orangish character, my blue on top of it will give it a little bit of that color complement, kind of create a little bit of tension and vibration within that field of color to either side of my central masked off area. This is just the white acrylic in combination with some more P.H. Martin's ink. So I'm just mixing the ink and acrylic together, and that's my paint in that case. I'm moving my masks so that I'm now dealing with the part of my page which was masked off up until this point. And I'm going to write again, this time using the same related color, but this time what I'm thinking about are things that I want to exert some control over and I want to engage. So things that are intentions, words of intention, ideas, goals for the year, things, those magical kind of words of intent that we like to pick as our word of the year. I'm just brain dumping all of the ones that come to mind into the central space. And then what are things that I want to engage, that I feel that I can healthily and consistently engage with, and ideas that through engaging will improve the next year for me, or will create meaning in the next year for me, or are important in some way. I'm dropping a little bit of my blue ink onto that water activatable pencil and that red space in the middle. So now I've changed the central part of this page and the color characteristic of the middle. It is quite a bit darker in value, and I don't know if I'm happy with that at the moment, but it's nothing that can't be addressed later. Looking at this, my challenge now is to integrate this space in the middle and the space on the outside somehow, to get these things to reconcile with each other. And one of my favorite ways to do that is to take an opportunity to do some really meditative drawing. Meditative drawing, for me, is drawing which may or may not be perfect. It doesn't have to be particularly controlled, but it has repetition at its heart. It has an opportunity for me to practice careful and considered drawing. So for me, just the rhythm of doing these scallop shapes and these dots together is very comfortable. It's very soothing, and it's something that I really like to look at as well as do. It also gives me a chance to practice some brush control. I'm using a small liner brush with some of my P.H. Martin's ink in the bottle. So again, really just limiting myself to a couple of basic colors. And I'm using that material in radically different ways. So in this very loose, uncontrolled, unpredictable way as a mixture item with acrylic, and also in this very controlled and very specific way with a small brush dotted and stroked in place in a very careful and considered fashion. So now I think that that edge has a relationship to the other parts of the page that makes a little more sense. And as I unmask that little section in the middle, it starts to come together a bit, and I'm starting to get more satisfied with how this looks as a page all by itself. I am a little bit conflicted about how the dark value relates to the light value, and I decide to continue patterning so that I can make these things kind of live together in a way that's a little more satisfying. So all I'm doing are simple vertical hatch marks to fill this central area. The beautiful interplay of that turquoise blue and the earthy orangish reds is not going to go away. It's just going to be hidden a little bit, and it's going to advance in interesting ways. It's going to behave a little more as kind of a surprise and like a little bonus, I guess, for your viewer looking. So a careful and attentive look will pay off as you notice that the background behind these white bars is pretty complex, that there's a lot of history and a lot of color and a lot of surface behind the surface that you see initially. And I really like that. I like looking at complicated surfaces, and I like making these complicated surfaces. So for me, this idea of layering in a meaningful way where you see something and you sort of become exposed to the idea that there's some history or some complicated surface lurking behind the first thing you see, that's really rewarding for me. It sort of intimates that there's things larger than the things that meet the eye immediately, and it hints at that in a larger way. So I have this very beautiful, organic, active surface, and I'm happy with its strengths, but one of the things that I really want to bring to my own work is a little bit more of a sense of composition, a little bit stronger relationship between resting spaces and active spaces in my work, a little bit better handle on how to balance a page so that it's a comfortable place for us to be. And one of the things I really love are neutral colors. I'm a frequent user and possibly abuser of neutrals. So this is a Nimbus Gray paint by Blick Matte Acrylic again, and I'm using it to just close off some of this beautiful textured information and use it to create a specific directed shape on this page. So by adding a couple of blank spaces where nothing's happening, it really helps us know where to look, and it helps us know where to kind of focus our attention. Once I like where I've directed my eyes, I can then think about the things I've written. And the point of this page is for that kind of word of intent and moment of intent as relates to the upcoming year. And the word that really leapt out at me is revive. So I don't think I really need to elaborate on that. I'm sure that a lot of us can relate. So that is my sentiment, my thought, my energy. I think that putting my energy and focusing my energy there and using that as a container for my practice and a goal for my practice in whatever that practice may be, it can't do much but help at this point in this year, in this time. So this is my breaking in page in this journal, and I have enjoyed having you along for this journey. If you have any questions about techniques or ideas or what I've used or why I used or did not use, please feel free to ask me, put it in the comments, or get in touch. I've had a great time journaling with you today, and I look forward to doing it again.